This is Do It For a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
We try to say yes to everything. That's what we were brought up as. You never turn down work. But at some point, you need to not spread yourself too thin and focus on things a little bit and not have this huge, huge backlog of work that is looming over you all the time.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It For a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Hey, Do It For a Living. This is Todd Ersley back with another episode. And today I've got Dom Tucci of Tucci Hot Rods and then his Dom Tucci Design business. And Dom and I met at SEMA last year. He was a golden ticket winner for the Optima Ultimate Streetcar Challenge, and they built a really, really cool Ford Fiesta ST that was in the Ford booth. And so I'll let him explain, kind of what they did with that car. But it was really, really cool to see what they did with the car and all the mods they did and, the forward-thinking aspects of it. And so I wanted to talk with Dom about the podcast because him and his father have a hot rod business. And so they've been around for a long time. And I've seen cars from them on magazines and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to hear his background story. And so, Dom, how are you doing today?
Very good. Very good.
Good to hear, man. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast with us. And so getting us started, we really want to hear about your story and the story of the business. So can you give us some background about yourself? Just kind of start when you were a kid growing up.
Yeah. So I was, I kind of grew up in the shop. My grandfather built cars as a hobby. He had a Keith Black blown Hemi 33 Willys that I remember sitting in the passenger seat of, and the thing would just vibrate your head. Like, it was so loud and it had zoomies on it. It was the craziest car. So like I was, 2-3 years old sitting in that car, and I remember being in it. And my dad did it as a hobby at first too. They had an appliance store. So my grandfather ran the store, and then they had a laundromat that was right next to it. So my dad started out as a Maytag repairman. So during high school, he got a 63 Falcon that over the years turned into a crazy drag car, probably around 2,000 horse that he drove on the street occasionally. So I was around all that, very early on. And I was 5 years old when we built this building that we're in right now, which is it was a 6,000 square foot fabrication facility. So he had been doing it for about 2 years before that. And in a little 2-stall garage that was attached to their house. So he kind of took a chance and built this massive building with, a couple clients here and there. But it just kind of blew up from there.
And what year was that when he kind of decided to go it out kind of more full time?
That was 97. So this is our 20th anniversary this year.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And so, you growing up, what year, how old were you when he built that building?
I was 5 when he built the building.
Okay. So you were really young. And then, so
Yep.
Going through school, what kind of schooling background do you have?
I went to Syracuse University for industrial design. But while I was in high school, I was really into the engineering side of stuff. So I took all the engineering classes, and I was really into Solidworks and 3D modeling and that stuff. So I had planned on going to Clarkson or RIT, one of the really good the engineering schools. And my senior year of high school, there was a graphic design class that my friend was in, and I was like, that sounds really awesome. So I ended up dropping my engineering classes to take graphic design, which seems weird, but I fell in love with it. And I was it felt like natural for me to do it. So I took the graphic design class, and I planned on going to college for graphic design, some sort of either like a computer art that you can do, you can go into like the movie industry with and stuff like that, or like the commercial side of it. So I toured a bunch of colleges, and I went to this sort of, where they have like the college, they're all set up at the booths and stuff, and they tell you why you should go there.
Like the college fairs.
Yep. So I went to one of those, and my cousin was running the booth for Syracuse University. And she gave me a pamphlet and stuff, and I was like, I don't know, I don't think I would go to Syracuse. It's a huge school, and I don't really know what I would take there. And I just toured it on a whim. And just there was this thing called Transmedia, which is a whole bunch of different computer art programs, and I was touring that, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And we had lunch there, and we were looking at one of the pamphlets that they gave us, and we saw this industrial and interaction design program, and it was down at the warehouse, they called it, which is in downtown Syracuse, which was still a part of Syracuse University. So we went down there, and we walked in, and we're like, this is the spot I need to be at. It was, big, huge studio environment, and sketches all over the walls, and it was a mess, and it was awesome. Like people making prototypes and all stuff like that. And so right after that, I was like, I have to do this. It's such a neat program. And that's what I focused on after touring. I was focusing on sketching and my 3D modeling stuff, and that's what I ended up doing.
So sorry to interrupt, but were you like working with your dad or during high school, or going through that, or was it just like something he was doing and you weren't much involved with it?
I wasn't super involved in it. I was always out in the shop making stuff. I learned how to weld, I think, when I was 7 years old, and I was always out in the shop bending up metal and trying to learn things here and there, but I never really worked with a schedule or anything like that for the shop until really I got out of college.
So it was more of like a hobby thing. You were just there kind of hanging out, doing fun stuff. You didn't really imagine yourself being in, or did you imagine yourself ever going into like an automotive design or fabrication business?
I honestly didn't. People would ask me, they're like, are you going to take over the business? And I would say, probably not. That's not something that I really see myself doing. But the way that I'm doing it now is exactly what I want to be doing. So it's kind of a combination of things, of my design background and his fabrication background, and it's working out really well right now.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So then you graduated college, and so take us through kind of the steps of what you've done since then. So
I think it was my summer before my senior year. It was a 5-year program at Syracuse. So in 2014, summer of 2014, I worked at the shop pretty consistently. And that was, I don't know if you remember the 70 Mustang that we built. Had the big wing on it and stuff for Optima. That was during that whole project. And I shot the whole project, did like a build video of it and stuff. And that was where I really was like, all right, this is pretty fun. And I can see myself doing this stuff. And that was when it was kind of on a whim that I came up with the Dom Tucci design thing. Like, I didn't really seriously consider doing that. And I started to get asked about it and started to do some work for people during that summer. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. So that's how that started.
So it really just was kind of a opportunity presented itself and you just kind of ran with it, huh?
Yep, exactly.
So do you think of yourself as an entrepreneur?
A little bit. I don't have like the good sales sort of voice that most entrepreneurs have, but I've always kind of done things for myself, coming up with different ways for me to make a living, try to make a living.
Gotcha. Yeah. So and so you never really had like a well, did you have growing up like a normal hourly pay job, or was it always just kind of working and working and working?
So in college, I worked at Abercrombie and Fitch for a semester, and that was
Were you one of the models in the front?
Yep. I would just literally stand there and fold T-shirts. That was my job, and that was kind of it was fun. It was different, some experience there.
Yeah.
And then for one summer after my freshman year of college, I worked for a local manufacturer. They made Roundup bottles. So I kind of did some of the engineering stuff on their backpack sprayers. And I knew that I didn't want to go into a normal job because when I was there, I literally could not stop thinking about cars.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be in the shop and be working on cars, figuring out stuff for them. So that was kind of where I was like, man, I don't know if I want a normal job.
But that job was kind of was that an industrial design job? Because
it was technically an engineering job.
Okay.
Because that was before I really got into the meat of the industrial design program. So I had no idea what I was doing. So it was really good learning experience, and I did a bunch of cool stuff while I was there, but it wasn't really industrial design.
Okay. Yeah. Because when I think industrial design, I think of Apple computers or watches, or it's usually things that look cool and function well is kind of at least the artistic side of it. So can you kind of explain a little bit more of what industrial design was meant to be?
Yeah, so it's kind of like product design, and my program relied heavily on the interaction part, so how somebody uses a product, and that was really big for us. There's a lot of programs that they stress the sketching and they stress the prototyping and the modeling a lot, and they want to just make the coolest looking product, and they were so not about that at Syracuse. It was really research based and user experience based, so that has helped me a lot with the car stuff too, with the ergonomics and how everything is going to work all together. It's kind of funny how that's transitioned into cars, but
into car stuff.
Yeah. But traditional industrial design is, you have this, say you have to make a cell phone. Okay. You start sketching out ideas for the phone, and then you start making prototypes either out of foam or things like that. And then you do user testing with it, how the person holds it in their hand, what they do with it and stuff like that. It's a lot of taking photos, talking to people, taking video, things like that.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, so that's a lot. All the user experience parts of, I guess, it normally is hinged towards technological stuff, but the feel and the look and the experience is what kind of an all-encompassing major there, or at least mindset with industrial design.
Yep. Yes.
So, kind of shifting gears, kind of to a little bit of worry or doubt. Have you ever doubted yourself and thought, oh man, what if this isn't going to work out? And then, how did you overcome that feeling and move forward?
Yeah, I think about that. I don't know. I don't know if I've truly overcome it. I don't know if you do until you're comfortable where you're at. I'm not there yet. I'm not at a point where I'm like, okay, I can stop, thinking about the next thing. I don't know if I'm ever going to be at that point.
Yeah. So when you started the Dom Tucci Designs, is it, is it working out, pretty well, or is it something that you're like, man, I really, I wish I could have gotten something else and, started another business or anything like that?
It's really up and down. I can be sitting at my desk with not much to do, and I'll go out in the shop and help my dad, or I'll literally have 4 or 5 projects I need to work on at one time, and they all have deadlines, and it's nuts. So it really goes up and down, and I'm lucky to have a couple really good clients right now that are going to be a sustainable thing for me to be able to work on.
Very cool.
And, so it's getting there.
What about like, kind of staying on the topic, like, have you had a specific like worst experience in the business? So either, working with your dad at Tucci Hot Rods or, your own thing, something that was like, oh my God, this is going to, crush me or really knock it down. And, have you had one of those experiences yet? And then if so, would you have done the differently?
Yeah. My dad had a pretty bad experience once. He was building a Riddler car, and he ended up getting a grade 8 with it. But yeah, I don't want to say any names or anything, but he just had a bad experience with the customer, and after that, he's like, I don't want to build any Riddler cars anymore. It's a different type of business to do that.
And so you got to kind of see that all unfold.
Yeah. And it was a pretty frustrating time for a while. We had a lot of our own money into the car to even just get it done. And then after they took the car back, they took our name off of it and said that somebody else built it and all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't a very good experience, and we've moved on from it and learned from it. So
yeah, and so with stuff like that, like we've discussed, like for me, that sounds like a sponsorship deal. You're putting your own money into it, expecting to get some notoriety outcome, and that's usually kind of what the Riddler Award is. So, did you guys have any sort of like contract with that customer, and if not, do you have any sort of contracts now if you're going to be doing stuff like that?
Yeah, and that was the thing with it, was that we had a contract, and with custom stuff, you never know what's going to come up and what's going to cost what. It's nearly impossible to give an estimate of what it's going to cost. So that was kind of what happened, was that we did have a contract, and it went over what we thought it would be.
Oh, like the price of it, or
yeah,
just kind of okay.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the cost.
Yeah, I can imagine you kind of really can't have a budget for a car like that.
Yeah, you really can't. It's impossible to have one.
And can you kind of explain a little what the Riddler Award is? In case anybody hasn't heard of what that car show is and what that means for a shop.
Yeah, I get asked about it a lot, and the way that I explain it is kind of like it's the Heisman of hot rods. Mm-hmm. So, people put in their cars and they hope to get a grade 8 or the Riddler. It's kind of like the most prestigious.
Yeah, the grade 8 is like the top 8 of all the cars, right?
Yep. So at the Autorama in Detroit, you send photos, and the car can't be shown prior to that show. That's right, in paint. And then you have to show that the car can move forward and backwards, and it can turn. And after that, you set it up and hope for the best.
How many cars do they let into the show?
That's a good question. I don't know, Riddler contender-wise. They probably have...
Is it like 50?
Yeah, probably around there. Maybe a little bit less.
Okay.
But to have that many high-caliber cars in one spot's pretty crazy. Yeah. Honestly, I like going to watch much better than being involved in it.
Yeah, because you understand the stress that comes along with actually doing something like that.
Oh yeah, it's insane. So much money into these cars, and it's good. Like JF's car, the Riviera. That
was that the gold or yellow one?
Yep. Okay. That one Riddler, and then he took it to the Invitational that year. And that was super cool to see, because none of those cars ever get driven.
No.
But to have him out on a road course with that car, that was one of the coolest things.
Oh, yeah. And it had like a weird, like the exhaust went like through the cabin or something like that. Do you remember what was going on with that?
That was the charge tube from the turbos.
Yeah, they were like rear-mounted turbos or something like that, and then it went
up and in through the cabin.
In through the roof. Yeah, that was like super, super weird, but it looked cool.
Yeah, it was a neat car.
Yeah, I remember watching him drive around and then seeing all the rubber and the rock chips and the exhaust burnt tips, and I was like, oh my God, that guy is like, I can't believe he just did that with that car. But that's the whole point of that series, is to get cars, driving like that. And so it was really cool to see him. And, hopefully they got it cleaned up, but that paint job will never be the same after doing that with them.
I know.
Because people build cars, like they'll build one car like their whole life for that show. And it's pretty amazing, the caliper that comes out of there. And it's all hot rods. So well, there was pretty crazy stuff. Few muscle cars recently. Okay. Does you think it's kind of shifting that way a little bit?
Definitely, especially with all the pro touring stuff that's going on right now.
I'll have to look in and see some of the more finalists that are coming through there. Maybe more relatable cars to what I'm used to. Yeah.
Like, to give you a little thing, like we had 9 years into that one car, on and off. So yeah. It's insane. And it's very hard to, we try not to follow along with trends. We try to, make the trends, but 9 years, a lot of stuff changes in 9 years. So, to keep like updating it as you go along to what's going on at the time, it's tough. So.
Yeah, I can imagine that being a constant struggle of doing it quickly enough to stay relevant or, making sure you're not going to become irrelevant. It's got to be a big struggle. Yep. So, what's something right now that you're doing that's got you fired up?
We're doing this pretty cool 36 Dodge that we've been working on for a little while. It's got a new 6.4 in it with a Borla 8 stack. And it's going to be pretty awesome. The only thing that's left from a 36 Dodge is part of the cab. And we're making everything else from scratch. We made all the frame already, the whole nose piece. So I drew the entire thing in 3D. That was one of my first big rendering projects. So I drew it all in 3D, and we're kind of basing it off of that to build the truck. And it's going to have a ton of custom stuff done to it that hopefully nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah, I don't even know if I've ever seen a 36 Dodge before. It doesn't, that's just not, you don't hear old Dodge vehicles.
Right.
That's got to be pretty early in their life of being around.
Yeah. I don't know when Dodge actually started making cars, but.
And so that's a pickup truck?
Yep.
Are you what are you building it for? This is just a customer car?
Yep. Just for a customer. But, he brought it to us. It was sort of a rat rod with a small block in it. And, the plan was to just build a chassis for it and put the new Hemi in it and, make it sort of like a nicer rat rod, sort of like the Model A that we built. And I was thinking about it. And I was like, why don't we do some weird stuff with it? And the customer was super down for it. And he's like, whatever you guys want to do, I trust you. And customers like that are the best. They just let you do your thing, and it's going to be a fun project.
And so with customers like that, like, do they give you a general budget, or are you looking for like, if they say, do whatever you want, are you billing them on like a bi-weekly basis, or, give them some sort of idea what's going on? Or is it really just high enough that they know what your caliper will work, and then they just let you free?
Well, we send invoices, I think, every 2 weeks if we're working on it pretty consistently. Just so they know like where we're at, and they can give us like a roundabout budget. We're not trying to make $1 million cars here. We try to make things as cool as we can within a reasonable budget.
Very cool, man. Well, let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
We all know owning a shop is difficult, so we created My Shop Assist to help you manage the various jobs. Whether you run a machine shop, a performance tuning shop, build off-road trucks, or even do powder coating, My Shop Assist can help you. It is completely online and will help you schedule the jobs, log time on each task, track parts orders, and take pictures of the work. You can even export your jobs from My Shop Assist into QuickBooks as invoices. So if you're interested to improve operations at your shop, check out myshopassist.com to start your 30-day free trial.
Okay, back with Dom Tucci, and hey, tell us a little bit about the business of Tucci Hot Rods. Like you mentioned you're in a 6,000 square foot facility originally, but kind of, give us, the layout of the business, the employees, how it works, kind of the breakdown of the business itself, and then your business as well.
Okay. My dad started in 97, and then he had, I think, 1 or 2 employees in that time. But he built that 39 GMC pickup, that green truck.
Okay.
In 99, and that pretty much put him on the map, and he took that car everywhere. And
was that his personal car?
Nope, we built that for somebody local.
Okay.
But that was he toured with Absorber, so it was in the Absorber ads. It was on the cover of 3 magazines, 3 magazines in a row, like 1 month after the other.
Okay, yeah.
And so that's what kind of like jump started the business.
And so did he know somebody in those magazines, or did it just was it like word of mouth spread? Because back in what you said, was that 99? That wasn't
99, yeah.
There was no viral internet then.
Right. Yeah. So it was mostly about the magazines then. And he mocked up the truck with cardboard, showing sort of how it was going to look, like
okay.
Painted the cardboard all black and stuff, and sent photos to Street Router.
Okay.
And at the time, all their offices were in one building in California. And so the pictures of the truck kind of made the rounds at the magazines there. And usually if, say if one magazine shoots a feature, the other magazines don't want the same car or truck.
Yeah.
And this was different. All 3 of these magazines, I think it was Classic Trucks, Street Rodder, and Popular Hot Rodding.
Okay.
They all wanted to shoot it. So this was in January or something like that of 99 that he sent the photos. And they're like, okay, when's it going to be done? So he said he would have it in Columbus, which is in June. So June or July, I think, somewhere around there. So he worked pretty much nonstop for the next 6 months and got the truck done, and they all shot it while they were there. So
wow. Okay.
I think it was November, December, and January in a row came out on the cover of those magazines, and so that was pretty crazy for him. And after that, he just toured the whole West Coast, going to all the shows with Absorber with that truck.
So with the point there of touring around and talking to potential clients or kind of showing off the work you do, was that the goal of touring a car like that?
Yep, exactly. Yep. We don't do any traditional marketing or anything like that, and we never have paid for advertising. Mm-hmm. It's all just we build what we build, and then we bring it out and show people, and that's our advertising. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think, are the magazines still playing any role for you guys, or is that something that is more because I see what's the Hot Rod show Saturday, Sunday morning. It's on I guess it used to be Spike TV. I don't even know what channel it's on anymore.
Power Nation.
Power Nation, yeah. Is that kind of the best way to get stuff out there, or for your clientele, is magazines still a pretty big one?
Magazines are pretty big still. The Model A was just on the cover of Street Rodder in the corner of it. But I think social media and video work and stuff like that has really taken over the media world. So it's just much different to get a car out there. You don't need to have it in a magazine. I'm not trying to downplay the magazines at all, because they've been amazing with us, and they're still a really huge part of it.
Yeah.
But they do a lot of the online stuff as well. So
gotcha. So it's cross-platform for them, obviously, as well. So you're going to get it in a lot of different places. Mm-hmm. So getting back into the business side of it. So after he built that truck, it just kind of orders started coming in. Yeah.
It just kind of snowballed from there, and we've done a couple cars that have been pretty big. I don't know if you remember the twin turbo Nomad that we built.
Okay.
on a Morrison chassis, and it had a 502 in it, and that was at SEMA. We've had a car at SEMA, I think, every year for the past 10 years.
Are you building one for SEMA this year?
Yep. Yeah, we're actually doing another project car with Ford.
Oh, very cool.
Yep. We're doing a Mustang this year.
Okay, I was wondering if you could talk about it. I guess it's not super secret what you're building, but maybe some of the details of it they don't want they don't want you talking about.
Well, I just don't think they want stuff shared, photos and things like that
beforehand,
or the renderings. But our plan is to do a standing mile car.
Okay.
Those are starting to get pretty big, and the Mustang, it's a 2018, so it's the newer body style. We think that's going to be a pretty fun project.
Yeah, let me know if you need any aero work or aero help. That's really the big one with the mile stuff. We've had a couple aerodynamic guys on the podcast before, and that's really that's where you get a lot of your value out of the mile cars. And now the import guys are going so fast, the half mile is now ridiculous. Like Lucas English with ETS and English Racing, they just did like 255 in a GTR in a half mile.
That's insane.
And I remember when they did when 200 in the mile was that's pretty good, and then it was then 200 in the half mile was like, holy shit, you're going really fast. And now they're like, oh, you didn't do 250? Oh, you're slow. UGR is probably coming for them now with the Lambos trying to reclaim that title because they had it for a long time. So, because the Texas mile is a pretty big one. I mean, I'm in Texas, so that's the one we always see. But I think the cars are getting so fast now that they're coming back down into the half mile side of it because you just do it on an airstrip. So it's a pretty cool little deal. But that'll be interesting to see what you guys come up with for the mile stuff.
Yeah, I was talking to Rick Hobeck. He and I talked to him for about an hour on the phone because he knows way more about that stuff than I do.
Yeah.
So
well, he drives his. Well, does he still have his Corvette with his parachute? That was a 200-mile-an-hour car, wasn't it?
Yep. And then he road courses it and everything, and it's super awesome. So he was a big help with kind of telling me where I need to focus my time and stuff with the car. So that was good.
And so continuing on with the business, so you guys, is it still in the same footprint, or have you guys had to expand?
So we're still in the 6,000 square foot main facility, and then my grandfather put up an 8,000 square foot storage facility. So he stores cars during the winter. I think he's got about 55 to 60 cars in there.
Yeah.
Every winter, because up here it's terrible. It's winter from October to April almost. So he stores them for 6 months. It's a climate controlled environment with battery tenders on all the cars, covers on all the cars, and we get high end stuff, Ferraris and Porsches and things like that. So during the summer, we have a whole bunch of space to put our projects in and stuff. So. But we're mostly still in the main 6,000 square foot facility.
Okay, and is there anybody else working with you guys there?
I mean, my office is in the former showroom of the building, so that's where I set up my stuff. But it's my design stuff, and then the main shop, and then behind that is the storage facility, and it's just us on the whole property.
And how many people work in the hot rod shop?
It's just my dad and I, and my friend Nick occasionally.
So it's real small, at least people-wise.
Yeah.
And so do you guys? I mean, it's everything, right? Like you're doing fab work. Are you doing paint and body? You're doing any engine assembly, or is that more done so kind of? I guess really just tell me what you guys do specifically there, and then what you may outsource. Yeah,
we do all the fab stuff here. So any of the metal shaping, chassis fabrication, anything like that. Then we have a paint shop that's about 10 minutes away that we found, and they've painted our last 10 cars, I think. He's really good and really open to learning more about what it takes to paint cars like this. So we don't do any of the painter body here. We don't do the interior stuff here, but we'll do the occasional motor work, and we do all the wiring, all the final assembly here, and pretty much everything but paint and interior.
And so are you guys using renderings to communicate your ideas to those people, or is it really just like giving them ideas and then letting them run with it as well?
They usually come with sort of an idea, and if they're open to it, I'll do a rendering for them. I've gotten into the renderings quite a bit. I do them all in 3D, and then I have this program called KeyShot that I can put like a lighting environment and all materials on the car and stuff, and it looks like realistic. So that gives them a really good idea of what the car would possibly look like.
How long does it normally take to do a rendering like that?
It really depends. I've done one in a couple hours, like 6 hours, or some have taken me, an entire week to do. It depends on the amount of modifications that I have to do. I usually start with a car. There's 3D models of mostly every car out there. So instead of, taking my time to model the entire car from scratch, I can start with a model and then do the modifications from there.
Okay, so that'll significantly cut down on the amount of time it takes to draw it and get it set up. Mm-hmm. So tell me about your location. You mentioned I think you guys are in the Northeast, and it's cold all the time. But has that played a role in your success, or has it really been got customers from all over? So kind of tell us about where you're at, and then if that played any role in it.
We're in Marcy, New York, so it's about an hour east of Syracuse. So we're like dead center in New York.
Okay.
But I don't think that that's hindered anything with our customers. They're mostly from the Northeast. We have some from Florida and a few other spots that, one from Tennessee. But we have a lot of semi-local, not too far away, but.
So you're saying it really hasn't played a huge role, because you're kind of getting customers from the general area, not like just locally.
Yep. Yeah, we travel all over the country showing the cars, so there's people all over that will see our work, and I don't think it's played a huge role. Obviously, you'd have more local stuff if you're near New York City, or if you're in California, or near a big city like that. But we're in such a perfect spot with where like our suppliers are, and this is where my dad grew up. This is where my grandfather grew up. So we know everybody around here, and this is feels like home for sure.
Yeah. So if you like picked up and moved somewhere more populous, you'd have to redo all those long-term relationships with vendors and
exactly.
your partners and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you've mentioned quite a few times about like showing vehicles. So I'm just curious to know, like, logistically, how does that work? Like, who pays for that, or is that just something that you guys like do? If you take a car and show it on the West Coast, like that's got to be a huge financial undertaking.
Yeah, that's kind of part of the business. That's how we keep growing and keep our name out there. So that's all, all that money is going back into the business pretty much. Sometimes we'll have the customer pay our way out there. If they want to go to the show and they're trying to, build this car for a certain show, and that's the goal, then they'll take care of that stuff. But mostly it's on us.
So if you build a car for a customer and you want to show it, you pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just hoping to recoup it by, getting other clients, and just kind of roll that into your hourly rate to charge the customers?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
A big thing is just networking at these shows, like seeing all the people that, we buy parts from and that we work with a lot. It's really good to keep showing face and keep talking with these people, just staying relevant.
Yeah, staying relevant and getting up in front of them is, I just don't like going to car shows very much, but I'm usually not like showing off this work of art that I've created. But, going to like the local car meet, I'm like, man, I don't want to stand around in a parking lot all day long. But that's really what it is. And if that's part of your business model, it's just kind of what you got to do. So are there a lot of car shows in your area, at least, that are pretty good ones that you don't have to travel 2,000 or 3,000 miles to go to?
Well, there's Syracuse Nationals, which we've been a part of since the beginning. They just this past one was their 18th year, and we've built 10 giveaway cars for that show. So that's been a really huge thing for us, doing like all these giveaway cars and being a part of that show. They get like 8,000 plus cars over the weekend.
And so a giveaway car is you're like contracted to build it, right? You may be putting in a little bit of your money, but there's some sponsor or something like that. Is that how those giveaway cars work?
Yep. So we try to get all the parts donated, and we donate all of our time to building the car.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't hear of anybody else that has built as many as us, which is kind of crazy.
And so I think I may know the answer to this one, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway. Did your dad ever write a formal business plan? And then have you ever written a formal business plan for the businesses?
No to both of those.
No to both, yeah.
I think he just, started and hasn't stopped since.
You just work.
Yep, just keep working. And he gets that from his mom, and I get that from him. And that's just kind of how we do things. He's in the shop from about 7:30 in the morning, and we have a little living room spot with a TV and everything, and he's out here until 11 at night, every night.
Every night, huh? Oh,
yeah. My gosh. So, and then his house is right in front of the shop on the same property. So basically never leave here.
Wow. So he takes his morning coffee and just saunters in and then gets to work, huh?
Yep, exactly.
So there's no employees at the business then, why is that? Why do you not have, more guys fabricating stuff to get more business out to generate more revenue? Is there a specific reason for it, or that's just how you guys want to run the businesses?
We've had employees before. We've had, I think the most at one time was 3. And you definitely get more stuff done, but also my dad feels like he's got to be almost watching over to make sure that they're doing everything correctly. It's very hard for him to be totally hands off. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's a really big part of it. And now with everybody's got a cell phone, obviously, that's connected to the internet. And that's a big thing with working,
keeping them on task. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He wants them to put their phone away in the morning and not look at it until the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was in the last year, he just got rid of all the employees that he had. And he said, I'm never going to hire somebody else again. He just doesn't want to have to deal with that stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really a good thing to realize, and it's not bad. To not have a huge operation, because we interviewed one of the brothers of Roadster Shop, and he grew up kind of the same way, building cars and fabricating stuff. And then as the business grew and they started manufacturing more parts, he never picks up a tool. He's like, my favorite thing to do is go out in the shop and actually do something. But
yeah,
they've got 50 employees, and his job now is the manager. Right. And so if that's not something that an owner is cut out or they want to do, there's really nothing wrong with not doing that. And so,
right.
I think a lot of people may realize that after they make the mistakes of having employees, and I guess it's not really, calling it a mistake is kind of harsh, but going through the process of having employees and then being I can't, just thinking to yourself, if you can't give up control, then you can't have employees. And it's usually you figure that out by financial means of
Mm-hmm.
losing money. So
Yeah.
do you think he saw like, a headache, obviously, but, was
Yep.
there a financial like pitfall that came along with that?
Absolutely. Like he's super fair with the way that he charges hours.
Okay.
If he has 15 hours on something and he thinks that it should have only taken 10, he'll charge the customer 10 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really tough. And a lot of customers don't really realize that we do that. And
So
then
they bitch about the 10 hours.
Yeah, exactly. But when you have employees, it's just, that tenfold. Like you always have to be editing the hours, making sure that what they did shouldn't have taken that long. And it's super hard to keep up with, and that's why he'd just rather be him in the shop with, keeping track of his hours. Mm-hmm. And just makes it easier.
Yeah, being really intimate with the vehicle and then the customer as well, keeping
Mm-hmm.
them appraised and knowing exactly what's going on. So, yeah, I mean, it surprises me a lot that you guys don't have employees, just given
Mm-hmm.
the number of vehicles I've seen from you guys. But it sounds more like everything you guys build gets notoriety. Like it's
That's what we hope. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's really what you're shooting for, obviously. So, like, how many projects do you guys turn out like every year?
We try to do one big full build a year. That's kind of where we're at with, most of the stuff takes about 8 months to a year to do. So it all depends on what's going on with which customer and what we have going on with our stuff. So
how many like active projects do you have right now? And then how many like dormant projects do you have that you want to work on?
Right now in the shop, we have, looking out right now, 6 cars in the shop. And we probably have another 6 that are in storage, mm-hmm. waiting to be worked on. So we have a lot of stuff to do, and which is good. It's really good.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, but it does get to a point where, people want to see their stuff being worked on. Uh-huh. And so you have to balance always, we try to say yes to everything. That's what we were kind of like brought up as, you never turn down work. But at some point you need to, not spread yourself too thin and focus on things a little bit and not have this huge backlog of work that is looming over you all the time.
Yeah. It's got to be, that's just something that's on your shoulders and on your mind all the time. If you've got so many, if every single person is asking for you to get their job done, mm-hmm. which one do you want to get done? Which one is the worst one or the best one to do? Mm-hmm. So kind of switching back over to your business, mm-hmm. How many hours are you working a week on that, versus, working at the Tucci Hot Rod stuff? So kind of break down what your like normal weekly schedule is like.
It's kind of always changing for me, which I enjoy. I spend a lot of time kind of working on my business, like non-billable, really, not for somebody, like, mm-hmm. Coming up with things for me to make. I've really gotten into the 3D printing stuff, and we had a company sponsor the Fiesta build, and so now I have 2 3D printers, and that's become a really huge part of my business. So just kind of still figuring out what my niche is, but it's always including the shop. My dad will come in midday and be like, hey, can you draw this really quick in 3D or print out a prototype for me for this thing? So, but I do a ton of different stuff with my business side. I do video work, I do logos for people, marketing material, anything really creative, I'll do.
Yeah, and so I had seen the products you made for the Fiesta, and can you kind of tell us more about the 3D printing that you're doing? Because it's a cool hobby, and I never bought one or haven't bought one because I'm like, I can think of 10 things I want to build, but I can't justify it for that. And so It sounds like, you've got a lot of ideas, and they're actually on the car. Whereas for me, like in my engineering days, we did rapid prototypes with 3D printing to see if it fit, but it was never actually going to end up on the final product. So can you kind of explain what you've done with that and kind of where you see the future of that going?
Yeah. So custom stuff, you kind of use whatever means possible to get the thing done. You know, to get this, say if you're doing a custom interior piece, you either have to make it by hand or draw it in 3D, have it CNC'd out of something. But 3D printing's been huge in, you know, cutting a bunch of costs with that and time. And so I try to do as many end-use parts as possible, and that's why the company really came on, because I was showing them the ways that I would use their printer, and they're like, this is exactly what we want to show, that it's more than just a prototyping, tchotchke making tool. You know, it's, you can make real end-use parts with it and have them be really functional. And so that's what I try to do on the Fiesta, and I think there's about 10 to 15 things on that are printed. All the hood vents, the fender vents. We put a race pack in it, and I did the bezels for the race pack. A bunch of little things here and there that really helped us on that car. Yeah,
and you really can't. You know, I remember I was talking with you about it, like at the car at SEMA last year, and I was like, you were like, yeah, this is 3D printed, and this is 3D printed, and this is 3D printed. I was like, I've never seen a 3D printed product like on a car, and you know, like, yeah, even the dash bezel. I was like, that's an excellent idea, because we built like, you know, crappy sheet metal ones for the Evo race cars, and I was like, it would have been 10 times better if we could have just printed one of these out. You know, just little stuff like that, or covers, or, you know, plates, or, you know, just all kinds of cool stuff. And you really took it far with that car, and the whole idea is you can't really tell if it's been printed or not. Printed. You know, that's the end goal, is that, you know, the layman can't tell the difference unless they're told. And so I just think that's really fun that you're actually making products out of it. And then you've got, and so what manufacturer of the 3D printer did you team up with?
They are Ultimaker, they're called.
Okay.
I think they're originally out of Europe somewhere, but they've come over to the U.S. and have kind of blown up. They actually started with a laser cut wood printer that you would put together yourself, and that's how they started. And now they've moved into, you know, really, really high end desktop printers, and they've been so great to work with. And they're actually going to have a booth at SEMA this year that we're going to be working with them on. And then my friend Nick, who I've mentioned a couple times, he actually builds motorcycles. And in the Ultimaker booth at SEMA, they didn't have enough room for a car.
Yeah.
So I was like, what if we put a motorcycle in there?
Yeah, much better. Yeah. And
they're like, if you can find a motorcycle, we'll definitely put one in there. And I was like, I have the perfect thing. So he's going to be building the bike to be at SEMA, and it's just a neat deal overall with the company.
What products are you making? Products that go on the bike as well?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, tons of anything that you can think of, we're going to try to print for this thing.
Okay.
You know, gauge mounts. The entire headlight is going to be 3D printed. We know that for sure. You know, the intake box.
So pretty much anything like non-structural.
Yeah. I mean, the things get, like, it depends on the material that you use, but you can make fairly structural things. Obviously not like suspension components or main frame components, but, you know, things here and there. It's pretty stout stuff.
That's going to be cool. I'll be looking forward to that. Yeah, I saw a laser engraver at SEMA last year, but I don't remember seeing a 3D printer. Again, because it's always been considered kind of a hobby thing, not you know, useful in your shop. But did you buy a 3D printer, you know, before teaming up with them?
No, I was planning on it because I knew that I was going to need it for the Fiesta project. There was no way. We built that entire car in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So there was no way to get that stuff made the way that I, you know, had wanted it. And I was looking at them, and I was just trying to figure out the costs for what the printer that I was getting, and struggling with trying to find something that was in my price range. And friends that I went to school with are really into 3D printing and worked for a few companies, and so I contacted him, who contacted his old boss that runs a 3D printing place in Brooklyn, and he got me in contact with the CEO of Ultimaker, and I sent him my proposal, and he was like, "Yep, we got to do this," and sent it down the line, and got us a printer just in time for us to make a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and making that car in 8 weeks is absurd. I'm trying to think of race cars we've built, from scratch is it's months. I mean, 8 weeks is 2 months, but way longer than that. I mean, you put a wide body on it, like a molded wide body, not like a bolt-on wide body, like a real wide body kit. I guess it was a custom offset wheel package, and you put a big brake kit on there. And
so what we actually did was we took Focus knuckles and used those, and then used the bottom of the Focus lower control arm and actually bolted it to the Fiesta lower control arm. So it's all Focus outer stuff. So everything's 5-lug, which the Fiesta was 4. And the Focus stuff is just way, way beefier. So we moved all the suspension out, I think 2.5 inches on both sides.
Okay.
And we had a set of wheels laying around from the Mustang that they're 18 by 10 inch wheels, and we built all the suspension based off of those. And and we got the scrub radius kind of where we wanted it. And when we had Forgeline make a set of their CF1 wheels.
Yeah, it looks really good. Did you have to modify the frame for those suspension components?
No, because we used all the Focus inners.
Okay.
So that was all factory stuff, and then just moved everything out and put the Willwood 6-piston kit on it for the Focus. And then we actually made these top hats. I think they're ground control camber plates, and then extended out the top of the strut mount 3.5 inches. So we built this whole box to, lower all the ride height without taking away all the suspension movement. Yep, exactly. And then we had, I think, Mosier make custom axles for us, and then just use Fiesta inners with Focus outers, and had them make this whole fancy thing. So. And
you guys put a cage in it, right?
Yep. We used those TMR clamps, so it's actually a whole bolt-in deal. And so we were able to build the cage in the car, pull it out, have it powder coated, and put it back in.
Yeah.
It's super nicely finished.
And then you did a turbo upgrade, right?
Yep. Yeah. So Full Race sponsored us and gave us their whole turbo kit, which was the intercooler, all the piping, their header, which is. I took so many pictures of their header because it's so amazing, and then it gets hidden in the Fiesta, so you can't even see it.
Yeah, it's tucked way back there.
Yeah, so their header and their downpipe, and then a Borg Warner 6258 turbo.
Yeah, that's a pretty good size for that car.
Yeah, and we're still tuning it. We're still getting there. Mountune is actually building us a motor right now in California.
Okay.
And they should be sending it out within the next week or two, hopefully. Awesome. And so we're going to swap that in. We're working with a company called Stratified. I don't know if you've worked with them. We're working with Alex, and he's awesome. I just keep sending him data logs of the car, and he keeps sending me new tunes. And we're using his supplementary fuel system because it's a direct injection car. And so you max out the stock fuel system, and then it's got a little spacer on the throttle body with an injector in it, and then you add fuel from there.
Yeah, it's an aux fuel kit. I've put one of those on a Focus RS before.
Oh, really?
Actually, just a couple weeks ago, it was a stratified kit.
Nice.
And are you running E85 in that car?
Mostly just kind of a mixture of pump and race gas.
Okay.
We don't really have E85 up our way. It's kind of hard to find.
Yeah, I remember the last year when I raced at New Jersey Motorsport Park, I brought gas cans of
Oh, really?
E85. Yeah, I think they've got some pretty close, but I remember I brought some up. I brought E85 up from Texas, but
What did you run in that race? What car?
the Evo 8.
Okay.
And I blew the clutch out like halfway through day one. And
Oh, really?
That sucked because I drove like 20 hours. I towed the car out there, and then it didn't work. And so,
Jeez.
it was awful. It
Yeah.
was so bad. And yeah, so
I think that was the same race that I was. We had our '06 Mustang that was all wrapped.
I think so. Yeah. It
was
rained
rainy.
the whole weekend.
Yeah, it was raining,
and I was
yeah.
super pissed because I was like, this would have been a guaranteed invite in the Evo if I could have ran. I mean, like, not a guarantee, but it's like that's where that car shines because I get all the acceleration advantage, and then the clutch would just slip on launch, and then it would slip under boost. So I was like, well, I can't drive this anymore. So I was worried I wasn't going to be able to get it back on the trailer. But so are you taking the Fiesta to the Optima race at the end of, or actually it's in like 3 weeks at New Jersey Motorsport Park?
Yep, we'll be there, and we're going to be running the '06 as well. So my dad's driving the '06, and I'll be driving the Fiesta.
Awesome. So you're hoping to have the Mountain engine in by then?
Yeah, we hope so.
And then Alex can turn up the boost?
Yeah, I hope so.
Do you have launch control on that thing? Because it's a race pack, but are you running the stock ECU?
We have the access port on it, which has a launch control in it, and that's how we. So in Vegas at the Invitational, we had 2 miles of light street driving on the car before we brought it out to the Invitation.
Yeah.
And we went to the autocross, and I just held it to the floor and launched it, and I did that, for every run.
Yep.
And I get onto the road course the next day, and every shift I can feel something chucking. So I'm like, this isn't good. And we get it back to the pit area, and we broke every motor mount that was in the car.
Oh my gosh!
All the stock motor mounts.
All the stock ones, yeah.
So we get a ratchet strap, and ratchet strap the motor to the front frame section. I go out again for another session, and it's good for a little bit, and then I can feel it again, and it ripped the ratchet strap right in half.
Yeah.
But that was so much fun. I had never raced a front-wheel drive car before, so that was so new to me. And having all the bugs that needed to be worked out, and
I can't even imagine with all the work that you guys did. I'm impressed that it held mostly together.
Yeah, I mean, everything that we did held together really well. The car was super low for the show, so we had to crank it up a little bit to race it. But we tracked it again a couple months ago at there's this track called the New York Safety Track, and it's a motorcycle track, but 4 times a year they let cars on it. And we had been tuning it a little bit and trying to get it figured out, and we brought it there, and the thing did amazing.
That's cool.
It was so much fun to drive.
Yeah, I think I got an invite. Mike Paisan of AZP Installs, I think he's hosting a track day the Friday, 8 days before Optima there, and I was like,
they run that whole thing there.
Okay,
that's who puts it on.
Okay, yeah, I was like, man, I really want to go, but I don't know if I can get out there that early. I'm planning to be out there on Saturday anyway, but I was like, I don't know if I can get another day and actually race the car, but I'd like to kind of try it out because it does look like a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's super tight and windy track, which is awesome.
Yes, I like that better, like an autocross. That would be a lot of fun. So kind of getting back on topic here, we start talking race cars and then get way off of it. But how many hours a week do you work? And then, also kind of to second that, if you have a family, how has that kind of changed things?
Well, I just got married a month ago, so it hasn't really changed much, but I mean, we've been together for 7 years now, so she kind of knows.
Well, congrats on that, and I guess she kind of knew what she was getting into.
Yeah. She comes to SEMA with me and comes to all the shows and stuff, and is a huge supporter of me and the shop and everything. So it's really great.
Have you modified her car yet?
Not yet. I don't know if she's gonna let me touch it. Okay. She just got a 2012 A4, so trying to see if I can lower it a little bit, put some wheels on it or something. But I spend, I get here. If I don't have something to do during the weekend, then I'm here. Whether that's just tinkering on my own stuff, working in the shop, depends on what we have to get done. But I'm probably here till 6 or 7 at night, get here at 8:30, 9 o'clock.
So pretty good amount of time there. Not ridiculous, but still quite a bit.
Yeah. When we were doing the Fiesta, we got here at 8 in the morning and didn't leave till 2 in the morning.
Oh, geez.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah. It was like I skipped the entire month of October. Like it just didn't happen.
Just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the entrepreneur question. Does the pay justify the amount of time you've spent, or you spend working on cars?
I don't think so at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, we spend so much time trying to make sure that the cars that we give to the customers are ready. Uh-huh. We hate getting phone calls of them on the side of the road if something happens. So we put a lot of time into, we try to put like 200-300 miles on each car before we give it to the customer. So, I mean, how do you charge for that stuff? It's almost impossible to justify all the tinkering and little things here and there that you put into it, and late nights, and we're trying to tune the thing, talking with people on the phone at 9 at night on the computer, trying to figure stuff out. Like, I don't think it justifies the amount of work that we put into it, but it's not really about all the money for us. If it was about the money, we'd probably be doing something else.
I think that's the case for most of us in these situations. It's like, at least we like what we're doing. So it makes up for not getting paid anything for it. Yeah. So with your business, what are the primary sources of revenue? You mentioned you've got some, kind of longer, or good things going. So can you kind of explain, what those are and how you're making money?
Yeah. So I do renderings for people. So that's one way. And those are like, good billable things that I can charge for. The 3D printing is new, but I'm starting to figure out how to charge for that stuff, how to charge for my modeling time. And then, once you set the printer, you don't really have to watch it. It's just hours of, so there's kind of like formulas on how to charge for 3D printed stuff and to calculate all the material used and things like that. So I've been figuring out that stuff. And then I'm working with a local brewery that I think I've been working with them for, it's coming up on 2 years now. I did all their branding, and I'm going to be doing all their marketing for them. And then also some fabrication stuff for their interior. So they haven't started, construction on their building yet. They have a spot, and they've been, fighting with the state stuff, trying to get all that stuff figured out. But, we just went to Nashville with them, my wife and I, and on like a little friends vacation thing. And so we're really good friends with them, and they're super awesome. And so they've been a really good client for me.
So that's totally different than car stuff. But again, doing marketing and content generation doesn't really, as long as it's fun and cool, it doesn't really matter, huh?
Right.
So
exactly.
So you mentioned on the, for the shop side, for the custom fab shop side, your marketing is really like building cars and then taking them on tour and getting them into magazines. Is there, how is that now shifting for the newer, younger market?
Well, I think you got to be really present on social media and always be updating stuff, always be sharing things. And I think a really big part of it is being real on social media, trying not to be something that you're not, but we try to share as much as possible, as much as we can.
So are you like taking pictures of like progress pictures of builds and stuff that you're working on?
Yeah, kind of like wherever we're at, if we're out at a show or we got a car set up somewhere, or we made this really neat piece for this car, stuff like that. We haven't, it's a lot of work to keep up on it, honestly, especially when you're working all day, but you kind of have to have that in the back of your head to be planning for things like that and to be making content.
So Dom, what's something that you struggle with in business? And how do you deal with it, or how are you dealing with it?
I think a big thing is, staying motivated on projects. And, for me, that like the fix of it is, kind of looking at what other people are doing. That's a really big thing for me to stay motivated on what's going on, and then to talk to the customer and to see their reaction to it and their excitement with it. That really keeps us going. These projects are so long and you get so involved into it, and sometimes you got to take a step back and see what you've done.
So you get like, oh, I don't want to work on this one today, but you have to.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That and I mean, on my side of it, just generating clients. Like my dad's got enough work for a while now, but for me, I don't want to rely on that stuff. I want to make my own clients, and I want to, have my own thing going on here that I can, be successful at. So I think just generating clients and getting myself out there and talking to people, and that's a really big thing for me to do. And I've been trying to be better with it.
Yeah. So then you can get your brewery client to build a custom rod for them.
Right.
Translate from one business to the other.
Yeah.
So can you kind of tell us the 1-year plan for the Hot Rod shop and then for yourself?
Yeah. So Hot Rod shop, we're going to have that car at SEMA. So that's going to be picking up like this week, pretty much. We're going to be starting on that. Then we have a couple other cars that are going to be pretty big coming up next year, that 36 Dodge and a few other neat little projects. But he's just going to keep plugging away at what he's doing and just keep putting out cool stuff. Mm-hmm. On my side of it, just getting more clients and getting a consistent workload.
Yeah, so just keep bringing in people and getting more and more notoriety out there.
Yeah.
So what about looking like farther out? So we call this kind of the big, hairy, audacious goal. What's where do you want to see both the businesses in 5 years?
I think we really need to get into products. We have so many ideas for tools and for things here and there, and I think we need to stop talking about it and just start making something and just start putting it out there. And on my side of stuff, I've started to do some 3D printed lighting. I've been really into that, and I'm trying to get that out there, and I just need to, start hammering away at it. So I think having products that you can sell is a really big thing for both of us. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's one 3D printed product for the Focuses that is really cool. It's the company is called Velocitech, and it's it looks kind of like a largemouth bass, but it's like a 3D printed intake, like a cold air intake for the Focus. And
yeah, I've seen that before.
It is so cool. And just looking at it, it's like this guy probably has, I don't know him personally, but he could buy $1,000 printer and just run it all day long, and he can make 2 or 3 a day, and all he has to do is every 6 hours have an alarm on to come take it off the thing and clean it up and then sell it. And you can it's really cool because it's customizable, so you can make it a different color for the mouth part of it to match your car, or you can do it black if you want stealth. And it's and it works. It's a cold air intake for the airbox, and that is to me, I'm there's the future right there. Now, I think if I was doing it, I would probably get those things molded. I would just, do a injection molding and have them made, and he could knock out 1,000 of them in a week. But he's keeping his overhead super low, and I'm sure he can't meet demand right now. So it's a really cool product, and that's kind of looking at, the 3D printing side. And like you said, with the hot rod business, I know, several of the hot rodder guys are now making parts now. And the first one that comes to mind is Finch, Brian Finch. He's making like the first one I can think of is like a shifter knob, but it's a really cool, like billet aluminum shifter knob. And that side of the business is taken off for him versus building cars. And so he's like still builds project cars, but now he's manufacturing parts. And I think as a long-term goal, that does make sense because it's, you're shifting your business. So that may not be as fun, but the revenue comes in a little bit easier of just selling a part.
Yeah.
So that's cool that you guys are thinking about that, like kind of transitioning the business a little bit to move forward. So we'll move on over to the quick answer questions. So just kind of to close out here. What's a game-changing product that you've seen, in the last year?
So friends of ours with Any Level Lift, they won SEMA Launchpad last year. And that's been a really neat product that I think could expand into even more than just lifted trucks. So it's basically a hydraulic lift system that he came up with that changes the height of the coilover. So it doesn't change your geometry at all in your suspension.
Yeah, it's not like an airbag.
Right.
It like just lowers it.
And then he's got I think three patents on this thing. And it's got a dual panhard bar up front, or a dual it's these like sliding bars.
Yeah, that like lock in.
Yeah, as you're going down the road, you can lift and lower the truck, and it doesn't change your steering wheel at all. And so he won Launchpad last year, and he's we kind of started talking to him before SEMA last year, and we ended up bringing out his project truck for him for his booth. But that's been a really big thing, and he's blown up. Like on Instagram, he's got like 40,000 followers now. Like orders, like pre-orders for it, like crazy. And so he's just trying to get all this stuff figured out. But I think that's a really neat product that I've seen.
Yeah, I did like that one a lot. I remember I was talking to him before, like right before Launchpad, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I got this like level kit," and I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, you can lift your truck, like it changes the geometry." And I was thinking in my head, I was like, "Holy cow, that's got to be so complicated." And then he like flashed up the patents during the thing, and I was like, that's how it works. Like, I was like, that's exactly as complicated as I thought it was going to be. But I mean, he makes it work. Like, it has to be complicated, but it's not like insane. A lift kit is also complicated. So I do really like that idea, and it's super cool to see somebody from the Launchpad at SEMA doing well. That's the whole reason for it, is that he may not have gotten the notoriety he got for, without the backing of something cool like that. Now, he may have, but it is a cool product. But, I'm really excited about that. And for any of our listeners out there, if you're going to go to SEMA this year, I really do recommend going to the Launchpad event. The guest we had on last episode is going to be participating as well with his Tesla-powered Exocet vehicle. And it's just, I think it's just really cool to see what people are doing in the industry. And so this Any Level Lift 4x4 kit is super wild, and excited to know that you guys know him, and, kind of we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
So what software programs do you use daily for your business?
I use a program called Rhino. That's what I do all my modeling in. So I'm on a Mac right now, which is kind of weird for the engineering stuff.
Everybody has like an existential crisis when you say like modeling and Mac. It's just not usually animation in Mac makes sense, but not really modeling.
Yeah, but it's been awesome. So I use Rhino. It's like a really free form modeling program. Okay. So I kind of started on Solidworks, and that's really rigid the way that you build things. You have to start with build planes, and you build off of those planes, and everything's kind of mated together in ways. Rhino is just like super free form, and you can make really nicely shaped things really quick.
Okay, interesting.
So that's what I use for my my renderings to make the models, and also for all my 3D printed stuff, all in Rhino.
So you can do that, and then you can export it into a G code, and it'll print it out for you.
Yep, I actually use Cura That's the slicing software that comes with the Ultimaker printers.
Okay, gotcha.
So I go from Rhino to Cura. That creates the G code, put it into the printer, and then it runs. I've honestly never used another slicing software, so but it's been super user friendly, and I figured it out pretty quickly.
So what about like out in the shop? What's your favorite like physical tool that you get to use?
I think the lathe. Lathe is one of my favorite tools.
Is it manual lathe?
Yeah. It's not. We don't have any CNC stuff here.
So besides your desktop 3D printer, it's all just manual.
Yep.
Machines out there.
Yeah.
And what is your like daily driver car?
So right now it's a rental Subaru Legacy. But I had a 06 WRX wagon that I had in high school, and I took it to a bunch of like the autocross events and stuff like that, and just beat the crap out of it for years. And finally, oh man, it's a year and a half ago now, I blew it up. I literally had done nothing to the motor, and I just beat the daylights out of it.
It just died, yeah.
Yeah, and so I spun a rod bearing, and the car is still in the shop. You know, I put a new motor in it from Arizona, and that ended up having a broken piston in it.
Oh, bummer.
So yeah, super annoying. And
was it just like a junkyard motor or something?
Yeah, it was out of a crash car.
Yeah.
So
well, you need to give IAG a call and have them build you a short block and throw it in there.
I actually got a new Subaru short block from the STI, and then put all good Ford stuff in it. We have a kid right down the road who used to work at a Subaru tuning shop, and he's building the whole thing. So
okay, very cool.
I trust him with that, so I'm hoping to get it back on the road soon and start
driving a rental car then, huh? I mean, the Legacies are really nice, so.
Yeah.
So how about what are your thoughts on the future of automotive performance, both from like, do you think stuff's going to be changing differently from the OEs or and like as well just the, you know, like the modifiers of these cars as well?
I think it's super cool to see, you know, there's another horsepower wars starting, or, you know, it's already started and it's been going on, and that's super awesome to see all the performance cars that all the OEs are making, and the aftermarket is just massive for all of these cars. So I think that's really good for the industry, and it's kind of funny for a hot rod guy to think this, but the electric stuff I think is going to start getting really big. And I've never driven a Tesla, and I want to, but I think like that stuff is going to start blowing up once they, you know, figure out how to track those cars and make them perform like that.
Oh man, yeah, me too. I really, you should go test drive one someday, because they are a ton of fun to drive. And we have influenced a surprise guest at the New Jersey Motorsport Park Optima event, so you'll be able to see something cool out there.
Nice.
I'll leave it at that. Awesome. And so, you know, just ending here, how do we connect with you and your companies? Like, how do we get in contact with you?
On Instagram, I'm at Dom Tucci Design, and then my dad is at Tucci Hot Rods. My website is domtuccidesign.com, and my dad's is tuccihotrods.com. So if you search any of those things, we should pop up.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time to tell us, you know, both about the hot rod business and then your business. It's really cool to hear, you know, doing some cool stuff and kind of pushing the industry into the future. So really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me on. It was really great.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone. Open up the podcast app, tap the subscribe button. When you subscribe,